So, what are the things that you would do yourself if you want to self-publish the right way? Well, number one, a good cover is still important. Despite the fact that it's digital, cyberspace, you do need a cover. I disagree with those who suggest the best way to get a cover is go to stock art and build it in 30 minutes. They do that. They do that a lot. In fact, Dean does this. This is how he does his stories. Is he goes and gets stock art. You can buy the license for like 25 bucks or less, and then slap a cover together and put it out. I think that if you want to do this the right way, you will get a good cover, and you will have someone, either you pay them or someone you know, to do good cover design. The cover design is all the borders and the way the lettering is done and things like this on the cover. You can tell a self-published book so easily. And if your book does not look like one of them, then you are already leaps and bounds ahead of them when people come to your page. So, a good cover, which is more than just the art. A good cover costs money. I do not advocate trying to find a way to get a cover really cheaply in kind of an unfair way. Now, there are ways to get covers cheaply in a fair way. One of these would be to go to DeviantArt, look for covers that would match yours, contact the author or the artist and say, hey, I want a non-exclusive license to put on the cover of my ebook fantasy. What would you charge for that? You might be able to get it for, you know, I would say a fair price for a cover. You're still looking at several $100s. The ones I've heard of that are okay but not fantastic, we're looking at 250 bucks. So what the minimum you should be willing to pay. Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. I have a novelette that I finished.
Yeah.
That I asked a friend to write. He's only charging me $70 and a copy of it when it's finally printed.
There you go. So yeah. But DeviantArt would be a good place to start, or friends who do art. The thing about it is, make sure it's of a professional quality. Okay? It's worth the extra money to get a professional quality cover. Don't fall into the trap of just putting anything on your cover. Alright? And you can do a cool, professional-looking cover that is more design work that's going to be cheaper. Does someone have like an iPad or something? Look up the cover of Infinity Blade, the book I did. You can do something like this, or the Wheel of Time covers in the UK. You can do something that's more symbolic if you've got a good designer to make the cover look really professional that doesn't require paying $5,000 to a cover artist.
I know kind of, if you're hiring a graphic designer, it'll be like $50 or $60 an hour for freelance work.
Right, and they should be able to do something like this in 5 or 6 hours, I would guess. Someone got that for me? Okay, yeah, stand up and hold that around. So this sort of thing, a good designer could put together fairly inexpensively, not having to have a high-paid illustrator. It's a sword sitting on some rock, but that is much harder to do than you're thinking it is. You need a professional designer. You may be one, but you need a professional designer to do this. Make something that looks really quality, and your sales will follow. Number 2, pay for editing. Pay for at least copy editing, okay? Proofreading. This, again, is going to cost you a couple $100. Don't just have your friends do it, though having your friends read it is good. You want a professional copy editor to look at the book and get all the typos and things out of it. Number 3, this one you might be able to do yourself. You used to not, in fact you should be able to do this yourself pretty easily. You used to not be able to, but all the e-readers, reflow, is that what they call it? The pages have, the text has to be able to change sizes, and it has to be able to am I right on that? Reflow?
The pages are not constant.
Yeah, the pages aren't constant. If you change the text size to 12, the page numbers are going to change around. Everything's going to change around. And so you don't have to worry about a lot of things that typesetters used to worry about, which is making the lines not spacey, which means that there's not like weird spaces on the page, and there's not orphans, which are like words that are like one word from a paragraph on a page. I can't remember if that's an orphan or a widow, but widows and orphans, things like that. You don't have to worry about any of that anymore because the e-readers all reflow the text. So you just have to get some basic layout stuff. And 4, you have to be able to upload it, which most of the websites are making pretty easy to do. So, I would be looking, if you were going to self-publish a novel, at still spending $500 minimum to do this. That puts you in the hole. And that goes against what some of the people are saying to do with this, but is what I would say. Which is why having then this marketing and all of these sorts of things is still really essential to doing a good job of it. And so the answer to you, who asked the question? It's back there. The answer to you, whoever asked me the question, don't you still want to do this stuff, is yes, you still want to do this stuff. The more corners you cut here, the more you're going to look like a self-published author. And self-published is probably the wrong term for that nowadays. The more you're going to look like an amateur. Because there are pros that are self-publishing now. And you don't want to look like an amateur.
You hinted that there was more that you might want to do with editing. What other kinds of editing would you contract, and how would you find those people and know that you're not going to scam?
Yeah, good question. You could also do full-born content editing. How would you find those people? I would look for someone who's been a professional in the industry, who has now gone to part-time and is doing editing on their own. Stacy used to do this, and she was a good choice. I think Dave still does this for some people who approach him. There are authors and editors out there who have a good track record. Look for references. Look for people who've worked in the field and in the industry, and find out what they charge. They will probably charge a per page, assuming a page is whatever, 250 words, a per page cost to do this, and it can be pricey.
So like anywhere from what would be a range for a book of?
I've never done. What's that? I've never done this. I'm trying to find a number. It's one of those things that slipped out of my mind. I think that you'd be expecting like a $500 minimum, and going up from there for editing. Yeah, I think pro editors like Moshe get paid somewhere around $5,000 a book, plus bonuses and things for how the book does. Granted, they're doing a lot more. They're not just doing the content editing and the line editing. They're doing cover, working with the cover artist and all that stuff. But yeah.
Also, what would you do for your title? Like most of the publishers are going to pick your title. Wouldn't you want to? How would you make sure that your title is a marketable?
No, that's a good question, because I don't think a lot of amateurs, I'm going to stop using that term self-published, but I do think, actually I'll say that, a lot of self-published writers don't take as much effort for their titles as they should. In New York, titles that are shorter are generally felt to be better. And titles are such a hard thing to talk about. But one thing I noticed from a lot of amateur self-published writers is that they have it be like this long string, it's like the kingdom of this and this, book 1, this and this, some person's quest. And it's like this huge mouthful where it just looks really awkward. So short and sweet is probably better. Short and sweet is probably better. Yeah.
Do androids dream of electric sheep versus Blade Runner?
There you go. Exact answer. Do androids dream of electric sheep? Actually say, quirky, long titles like that were very much the rage for short fiction and science fiction and fantasy during the 70s and 80s. Pretty good. More like the 60s and 70s. So you get things like I must scream, but I have no mouth, but I must scream. And Repent Harlequin said the TikTok man. I think it's even longer than that. I think that's only like abbreviation. You see things like that. You still see them occasionally, particularly in short fiction. You don't see those in novels. Remember, Your Android Dream of Electric Sheep was actually a novella. And I think it may have been published separately, but Dick was a short fiction writer, and he knew how to do good short fiction titles. And the thing about those titles is those are titles that when you're scanning through the front of a magazine that you've already bought, looking for which one to read and looks interesting, when you run across Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, where everything else would have like a simple Blade Runner style title, that one was like, whoa, that's weird, I'm going to read that. Does that make sense? Which is very different, actually, than the book marketing business. You would say, yes, that could do the same thing. If you have the right title, it can. What are some that have done that? You see books that do that. A good quirky title can work, but stay away from, what I'm getting at is stay away from like the colons, stay away from like the big long colon things that have ding, and then colon ding, and then all of this stuff in your title. Don't make it messy. If your title is something like Your Android Stream of Electric Sheep, okay, go for that, but I would even be worried about that one in today's market.
I think the longest book title I've ever seen is The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland Using an Airship of Her Own Design.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That one's actually not bad. I don't mind that one. What's that? It's actually kind of, there's an, yeah, I'm on video, so I don't want to mention any author specifically. But go look through Amazon, and you will see what I mean, I think. You'll see these big, long titles. And often, they have covers that look like they were drawn by a high school art student that shows some promise, but if you look closely at them, you're like, ooh, that sort of thing. So, this is where you don't want to be. There's another hand over here somewhere.
Oh, I was just thinking, what you were describing kind of reminded me of what I thought of The Name of the Wind.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah,
really good book, but the title just stood out to me in the sort of in the way that you described it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, this. Again, read those blogs I talked about.